Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where it's all about helping you complete your financial journey to retirement. Discover time-tested strategies and get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Break away from the herd and go for the retirement you dream of. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio. So excited to be here. I actually am kind of fired up, so I want to jump right in. I have a business coach, friend of mine, now retired. Hello, Gary, out there in Texas land. I hope you're doing fantastic. But Gary once offered some advice on my podcast. He'd offered advice many times. He was my personal coach at the time and a friend. He said, Kraig, you just need to be as excited as you normally are. You know, I'm kind of a high energy individual, and Gary said one day on your podcast, Kraig, sometimes you're a little too quiet and it doesn't fit who you really are. And he says, you should just be yourself and people will listen if they want to listen. And the reality is you're better when you are just who you are. I thought that was obviously fantastic advice. That is good advice, I think, for anything that we do in life. And with my podcast, sometimes this becomes therapy. It becomes a place for me to rant about things that make me mad or frustrate me in my career as a financial planner. And you just have to let it go. So today I do feel like I am going to be in one of those moods on the podcast today that just drives me nuts, that it's impossible to me sometimes to figure out. I know it's not impossible, but it's difficult sometimes to just figure out what does it take to motivate people to actually take action to avoid some of these things I'm going to talk about today, to do something for their family, to actually get them to take action to avoid bad situations. So that's my little update as I get started. I am definitely fired up on this episode. So you heard the intro. I am the income engineer. What the heck does that mean? As a certified financial planner for 20 plus years in the financial services business, I found that there was a big gap in the retirement conversation, and that was the retirement income conversation. Wall Street talks and talks and talks about saving and investing for retirement. Very little effort, very little marketing is put on how to take money out of the system. It makes sense if you think about it. Wall Street has no financial incentive to teach me how to teach you how to take money out of their system. It's better for Wall Street that you don't know maximum retirement income, because that would mean that you would probably be able to take out more money, right? I want to make sure that you are prepared to ask the right questions, prepared to go in to talk to your financial advisor or your financial planner and ask questions. Hey, what's my maximum income number? Hey, will I avoid the 4% rule? If you don't know what the 4% rule is, oh my heck, you better go back and listen to the last episode where I talk about the 4% rule. It's 2 episodes ago, but please go back and listen to that and make sure you study it and ask your financial planner, hey, how am I going to avoid that terrible 4% rule? I don't want that, because I'm going to tell you right now, you do not want to retire on the 4% rule. Most advisors today have been educated by the same machine that taught me the messaging that worked best for Wall Street. CPAs, attorneys, bankers, insurance people, the list goes on. All of that advice and all of that stuff you hear out there, there's a ton of similarities in the message. And don't get me wrong, the message is not completely wrong. It is just incomplete. The answer to every question from your typically trained Wall Street investment advisor is invest more money, diversify, dollar cost average, diversify and invest more money. Well, maximum retirement income does not happen by investing more money simply. It has to be a balanced approach. Now, quick disclosure, I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA. I am a certified financial planner professional, Please don't act on things that you hear on this show as if you're hearing advice that is actionable. You are not. You are hearing good, general, conversational topics covered by me, in my opinion, and you should not be acting on those in your personal situation. You really should meet with a qualified financial planner. And may I suggest a certified financial planner. And may I suggest a certified financial planner with his own podcast and specializing in retirement income? Yes, I would love to meet with you. Thank you so much for asking. You can send me an email, Kraig with a K at kraigstrom.com, Kraig with a K at kraigstrom.com. I meet with folks all over the country thanks to the miracles of technology. The world is very small nowadays. So please send me an email. Let's talk about your specific situation before you jump in and actually act on any of these things. Big deal. Now, the first segment in my show, when I don't have a deal of the week or, short stuff, is always watch your step. And no, I didn't have any big deal of the week this week. I know folks have been asking me about it on my email. I will post a deal of the week when there is a deal to be had and a deal that deserves to be posted. So be patient. I'm sure there's one coming. But the first segment I want to cover today is watch your step. Now, I give a lot of attention to currently the biggest financial entertainer out there on the market, Big Dr. Dave, right? He is a financial entertainer. He's an unlicensed radio and podcast personality doling out financial advice to, unfortunately, unsuspecting individuals who don't realize sometimes how bad the advice is. That's Dave Ramsey. Now, what I want to do is make sure that I don't forget to give out some love, right? I want to make sure to give out some love. So the last episode, I also talked about Susie Orman. Susie Orman is another financial entertainer, really the godmother of financial entertainers, and she came to prominence before Dave Ramsey got big. And Susie Orman has in the past and continues to, but give out, in my opinion, some horrible advice. So if you haven't listened to the last episode, go back and check that out. Definitely go back and check that out, where I give you some information on Susie Orman, and her financial entertainer advice just blew me away. Oh, it's amazing. Now, let me jump in, because again, this episode is going to be really just full on observations and things that have happened in my world recently. This is stuff that is actually happening right now that I just want to share it with you, so that, again, I'm trying to find that way to motivate you, my listeners, to actually take action, to get something moving on your own personal planning, that perhaps, if it hasn't already been done, that you get inspired, motivated to move, right? And now that I'm thinking back, that last episode, I did revisit the 4% rule. So earlier I mentioned, don't retire on the 4% rule. You might want to go back and check out the last episode, because you definitely want to know what the heck is the 4% rule and how do you not retire on that darn thing, right? This episode, I want to talk about asset protection. Asset protection is all about what you get to keep. Retirement is about maximum income. Maximum income is not always about investing. It's also about what you get to keep, and that means protecting yourself. Asset protection is just that. It is making sure that no one or no thing or no event can come in and take your stuff. Because the more stuff you get to keep, money, the more income you have. That is a critical piece to put together. So many retirement planning conversations never talk about protection. They never talk about making sure that your legal protections are all in place, your insurances are in place. It's all about invest. Well, I'm here to tell you that you've got to put a fence around the income assets to make sure that no one or no thing can come in and take your stuff. So this article posted by a friend of mine in New York City posted this article. His name is Joey Jackson, actually. Joey, hello out there in New York land, in Manhattan. Joey is an amazing defense attorney, and he posted this article on his LinkedIn page that just set me back in my chair. And here's the headline. 10-year-old boy charged with assault after dodgeball injury. What? A 10-year-old boy charged with assault after a dodgeball injury at school. Now, quick fast forward. Thanks to Joey and a public outcry, that case has been dropped. The criminal case has been dropped against this little 10-year-old boy. A dodgeball incident at a school playground, right? For a 10-year-old. Now, you know what I guarantee you hasn't been dropped? I can't guarantee it. I don't know the details. Is the civil case. That's the part to worry about. That there's a criminal case brought against a 10-year-old boy and his family. How much you want to bet that there is a civil case coming? A civil case for pain and suffering and so forth for against this 10-year-old boy, and not the 10-year-old boy. Who's actually going to get sued? Who's going to get sued in the civil claim? Exactly. The parents. The mother of this little boy is going to get sued in the civil action. And that made me step back and say, oh my gosh, can you believe that? Right? People think that their asset protection, their civil liability, or that someone might sue them, that is going to come from something that we're totally aware of. Things like a car accident or a business lawsuit or something along that lines. But I'm here to tell you, it's going to come out of left field. You are going to have no idea where it's coming from. And in this case, for this poor mom in New York, the potential civil judgment is coming from another mom and a family that her kid goes to school with that could end up suing them in civil court. And you know what happens in civil court, right? Hello, OJ. You are found not guilty in criminal court in the most public, crazy murder case in the world at the time, probably forever. Found not guilty. Civil court, guilty, right? Guilty. Because the civil court is a totally different animal. That is the place where this mom in New York could now be facing monetary penalties by a civil court jury. Monetary penalties, right? That's where a jury of 12 looks at this mom and the family and says, oh, that's just terrible. We need to hand down a judgment, a monetary judgment, because this is just unacceptable, right? Civil court is not a place that you want to mess around with. And when I saw this article from Joey Jackson, again, awesome reporting on this, and phenomenal job on Joey's part for having really gotten out in front of it and brought this huge public pressure to bear so that the case would ultimately be dropped. But my fear is that the civil case might still live on. Right? That's the worry. And that's why today I wanted to talk to you about asset protection. Making sure that what you have, your IRAs, your 401ks, your house, is all protected. Because asset protection is wealth protection. Protecting your money from creditors, predators, liens, and judgments. Think about that. Creditors, predators, liens, and judgments. We hear about it all the time, but people are so, most of the time, just apathetic. They're like, it's not going to happen to me, or I have insurance. You know what? You do not have insurance for what you think you have insurance for. So I want to take some time today. I want to really dive in a bit on asset protection. and what it really means, okay? First of all, you cannot protect yourself after the fact. You cannot call your homeowner's insurance while your house is on fire and ask them for more insurance. You cannot do that. You have to have your asset protection in place before the event. Asset protection planning is legal risk insurance. That's what it is. It's giving you that additional layer of protection around your world. It is legal asset protection. I've said this before, but I want to highlight it today. A revocable living trust, which we're going to talk about later as I wrap up today's show, offers zero, nada, zippo, no asset protection whatsoever offered by a living trust. That is a misnomer. People don't understand that a living trust doesn't give you any asset protection. Now, people will often say, I've got liability insurance. I've got liability insurance. Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, go grab your car insurance or your homeowner's insurance policy. Take a look at your policy and you'll realize that you've got one page that says, these are the things we cover. And then you might have 30 pages of exclusions, what they don't cover. Remember, insurance companies don't lose money, right? They have exclusions. They have provisions. They have situations also inside these insurance policies. They do not cover criminal convictions, criminal cases. What if you had a punitive judgment against one of your children? What if this 10-year-old, in fact, ended up in criminal court, crazy as it sounds, and then a court said, yes, we're going to drop the hammer on this little bugger. Really, we're going to drop the hammer on his mom and dad, and we're going to issue a punitive judgment because this is so bad, we're going to hurt him with a punitive penalty in this civil case. Guess what? Liability insurance on your homeowner's policy doesn't cover punitive damages. Remember, insurance is primarily a big stack of things that the insurance company doesn't cover. Don't rely on insurance. You've got to understand where your risk comes from. And I like to say you need to know who your potential creditor might be. It's not just Visa and MasterCard as your potential creditor or Ford with your car loan. You've got to understand that if you run a business and you have business partners, you could have their creditors could come after you. You could have a divorce situation and then you have creditor issues with a ex-spouse. Personal guarantees, that can happen when you sign your name on a lease or a loan agreement for one of your kids. Taxes, you don't ever want to have them as a creditor, right? Professional malpractice, if you're a doctor, a CPA, a lawyer. Rental property, oh my gosh, people who are out there doing Airbnb is one of those places that just scares the heck out of me because I know for sure when I go to an Airbnb, I know for sure, at least I feel like I know for sure, these people are not insured correctly if I fall down their stairs. If I fall down their stairs because there was some mechanical defect in their property that they should have taken care of, that they should have covered, and now I'm permanently disabled, I'm going to own that property. In my lawsuit to recover my losses for my injuries, I'm going to own that Airbnb because it's going to then be sold to cover my injuries. Rental property accidents, oh my gosh, if you've got rental property or if you Airbnb anything, if you use Turo and you rent out your car, good night. Make sure that you're listening carefully to this episode about asset protection, and then you and I are talking about how to protect your assets. Sexual harassment violations. Nowadays, you're at work, you say something you don't even realize is now considered sexual harassment, and all of a sudden you're facing a civil case for sexual harassment in the workplace. That happens. Auto accidents. Oh my gosh, auto accidents is a big, big risk. But people are almost always, when I meet them, not insured properly. Their assets are not protected properly. Homeowners accidents. We had a young neighbor here just over the weekend. Two boys came by the house and said, "Hey, we're looking for some work. Like $5 an hour. Can we do projects around the house?" Sadly, my first reaction was no, you can't. Maybe if I talk to the parents, I might, sanction something like that. Maybe if they wanted to be out in my front yard and have a bucket and simply wash a car so that they're not on my property, they're not using any tools, they're not doing anything that, where they run higher risk of injury, maybe. But having two young neighbor kids nowadays come and work on my property in the age of lawsuits that we live in today, unfortunately, I'm not inclined to do that, right? Now, the big one that people miss is like this situation with the mom in New York City, right? She all of a sudden now, just out of the blue is facing a civil court action, maybe, but she was facing a criminal court action all of a sudden with her 10-year-old. Acts of family members is a big, big risk. You've got children out there driving cars and you've never looked at your asset protection. You've never really understood what your car insurance and your home insurance covers. Please contact me, Kraig at KraigStrom.com. Kraig at KraigStrom.com, right? Please get in touch with me because remember, the golden rule is he who has the gold pays, right? So if you've got any kind of assets of any kind of value, if you've got insurance, great. But if you've got insurance on top of assets, on top of valuable accounts, investments, for example, though that's gold. The plaintiff is going after that stuff, folks. The plaintiff is going after that. You've got to protect what you have as vigorously as you work for it. That's absolutely it. Remember, asset protection is the process of employing legally acceptable concepts and strategies to ensure that your wealth is not unjustly taken. You've got to protect your assets through insurance and legal structures that make your assets difficult to reach. The more barriers you can put between your assets and liabilities, the greater the leverage to negotiate fast, favorable settlements with creditors. That's the key. The more barriers you can put between your assets, the more likely you're going to be able to keep them. That's critical. So asset protection should cover the gamut from liability insurance protection to exemption planning, titling your properties correctly, planning your marital assets, using business entities to shield your assets, using debt to shield your assets. There's a variety of ways to protect what you have, and the critical piece is to actually do something about it. You cannot get more protection when your house is on fire, folks. You cannot get more protection after your child crashes the car at school. True story of a family that lost basically everything in one moment when their son, on the way to school, decided to pass going to school right at the parking lot entrance, turning right, decided to swing in to turn right into the school a little too fast. A little too fast, maybe a lot too fast. I wasn't there. But at that very moment, turning into school, another child from the school riding a bicycle on the sidewalk decided to take a very reckless course and jump off the curb into that right-hand lane where that young man was driving to school, and directly into the front of his car. The impact killed that young boy on the bicycle and probably destroyed the life of the young man driving the car, who was, yes, a young guy, stupid, driving too fast, but not driving super fast, just driving too fast and not paying attention. And at the very worst moment in time, the young man on the bicycle jumps off the curb, and that's it. He's killed right there on the way to school, right? And one on the way home, right? It's just an unbelievable, shocking moment. But the aftermath of that is all things like this: civil judgments, wrongful death cases. These are places where families' financial lives can be destroyed, on top of the emotional, crushing devastation that happens when something like that goes wrong. The financial impact is unbelievable. And unfortunately, we've seen it all too often. In our firm, we specialize in asset protection. That's what we do. We specialize in estate planning, living trusts and wills and powers of attorney, and making sure that all of the legal protections and financial protections are in place to make it harder for people to come and get your stuff. That's the idea. That's what we do. If you know that you are 100% protected, nothing to do here, nothing to see here, folks. But if you don't, if you know, as you listen to this, you're going, I have no idea. I know I've got holes in all of my protection. Please take this moment. Send me an email, Kraig@kraigstrom.com. We work with clients all over the country. So it doesn't matter where you are. Kraig@kraigstrom.com. Let's get your asset protection done right. And with that, I'm going to add another plea, because this, like I said, is going to be my rant. My excitement today is because this just happened, right? This just happened where I met a widower. He lost his wife 3 years ago. Now, I met this person because he has received a settlement and he needs to invest the settlement. That's why he was introduced to me by his CPA. So I meet this person. He lost his wife in a sudden car accident 3 years ago. Now, he and his wife had both remarried. They were madly in love. They had a blended family, his kids, her kids, etc. Unfortunately, neither of them updated their previous estate plans. In fact, his wife had nothing. No wills, no trusts, no powers of attorney. They had nothing in place. And after his wife died, right, so they're madly in love. They're both excited to be remarried, and they'd been married for just a short few years. After she died, her children immediately filed legal challenge to his claim of any marital assets. The money that they had saved, the house that they lived in, all of this stuff, that immediately her children filed legal claims in civil court, of course, family courts, probate, etc., to go after that money. After 3 years of costly probate litigation, he and the kids, his wife's kids, his stepkids, after 3 years of costly litigation, they lost a total of about $650,000 in legal fees. Just legal fees. They paid over $650,000 in lawyer fees to settle the estate. Here's the thing. In their case, for about $2,000, for about $2,000, with my firm, a will, a living trust, a full estate plan, powers of attorney, advanced healthcare directives, a pour-over will, all of that could have been done for about $2,000. They would have avoided all of the additional pain and expense that took 3 years, and the emotional trauma was devastating to this man. Just devastating. Absolutely devastating. Please, folks, here's my plea. Here's my passion plea. Don't delay your estate plan. If your estate plan is old or doesn't exist, contact me today. Kraig at kraigstrom.com, Kraig with a K at kraigstrom.com. Contact me today. Absolutely critical. Let's get it done. The part that I love about my law firm is, as fancy as we are in the work that we can do, we are not Los Angeles or New York prices. I got to tell you, we are a very modestly priced law firm for the high quality of work that we do. Don't be intimidated by the idea that, oh, that law firm's in California, it's got to be expensive. No. I have made special arrangements with my firm to be able to offer my listeners access to extremely favorable pricing to get the good basic stuff done. Things like living trusts, absolutely. Things like LLCs to protect your rental properties, absolutely. We can do that. Folks, hear me. Please get out there, take action today. The idea that this family, right, lost $650,000 because they didn't spend $2,000 on a living trust. That's insanity. Please don't be that person. Let's get your asset protection done right. Let's get your estate planning done right. And let's also take some time to talk about your retirement income planning, because I am the income engineer. I love to put it all together to make sure that you get maximum income and nobody can come in and take it away. All right. Now I need a nap. I'm excited, as you might have guessed. I really want to fire you up. You got to fire those emails off to me today. Kraig at kraigstrom.com. Take action. I look forward to talking to you again real soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. We took notes for you, so if you missed any part of the show, you can find a full transcript of each episode at personalpensionradio.com. Be sure to download your free retirement income crisis report at personalpensionradio.com. While you're at it, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.